Grief is such an overpowering emotion, especially after losing someone so close to you. It can take months, years, even decades to get back to normal, if that's even possible after experiencing a significant loss. This podcast was created to help you move through and release the emotions, allowing you to heal the hurt and begin living again. Listen in as I chat with medical professionals, grief workers, and people who have first-hand experience in losing a loved one, what their experience has been, and what they did to help heal themselves and those around them. Life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but I believe there is always a silver lining if you're willing to look. Welcome to the Release Podcast. Welcome to this edition of Release Grief Podcast. Today I have the pleasure of speaking to the Miss Molly Pearson. And I am so excited to chat with her. Reading her intake and the stuff that she put down just has me super excited because these are things I have thought about, not specifically what she has done, but in other ways to help those that you love with grief and different things when you're gone. So anyway, welcome to the podcast, Molly. Thank you so much for being here and sharing a little bit of your journey with those listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So as everyone knows, this podcast is all about grief. We talk about death, we talk about grief, we talk about loss, we talk about trauma, and it's not necessarily grief from losing a loved one, but in this instance, you created something because tell me about why you created it and what led up to you creating it. Like, I'm not even going to tell them what you created. You can do all that.
Sure. So I sort of think about this a little bit as pre-grief. I have thought a lot about what it's going to be like when my parents pass away. And I'm particularly close with my dad. I'm close with both my parents, but my dad and I have sort of like a best friend, older brother, father-daughter relationship kind of all rolled into one. And I don't know how many times I've thought to myself, I am going to lose my shit when my dad dies, because he is so full of daily, wisdom and inspiration. And there's something, he's an idea man, every time he blinks his eyeballs, he's got a new idea that can transform the world of couples therapy. And, he gets on the tennis court and plays tennis with a physicist, and they're talking about how physics relates to relationships and couples therapy. Right. And he can link any two ideas together in the drop of a hat. So I wondered for a while, I kind of ran around wondering like, oh, could I pre-grieve the loss of my dad? Could I get all the sad out early? Could I be done with it quick while he's still around?
I remember some of your posts about that, and that really intrigued me. The specific one was about the tire.
Right. Yeah. Tire. So for Father's Day, my dad was very into teaching me life skills that would serve me well. So for Father's Day, he's like, I'm going to teach you how to unclog a drain. I'm going to teach you how to check your oil. I'm going to teach you how to change a tire.
I love it.
And it served me well on the side of the road in the rain and on the freeway. And, this CHP officer coming up behind me saying, do you need help? And I'm like, nope, I'm almost done. And he said, you wouldn't believe how many people I run into who have no idea how to change their tire.
Right.
So, and my dad is also kind of a stand-in dad for other people who have shitty relationships with their dads.
He sounds like he would be great.
Yeah, he's a good one. And so I couldn't really put all of the consideration of losing him on like the day that it happens or the day after that it happens. So I'm thinking about how do I prep myself for this like monumental, devastating loss that is going to happen, right? I can't avoid it unless I go first, but what do I do with this? And it all kind of really came to a head when my dad started having some serious medical issues. Okay. And it really kind of like threw me back in my seat. And I was like, oh man, we may be a lot closer to his passing than I thought.
Right.
And he's healthy. He's 80, but he gets up and he plays tennis every morning at 5 a.m. and has 100-mile-an-hour serve. And he's like, he's a mobile, fit guy, but you never know when anything's going to happen. And so when he got sick and we were trying to figure out what was going on, I thought this might be the beginning of the slide into the
Right.
big bad. And I thought, God, when my dad dies, he is the one person that I
Mhm.
want helping me with my grief.
Right.
He is going to be the person who's going to tell me the things that are going to make sense and that I'm going to want to hear and that will help me with all of my feelings. And he is the one person that can't.
Yeah.
And so, how do I get something of my dad after he's gone? How do I get something new of him? How do I get any of his ideas? I don't want that just for the rest of his life, but I want that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I kind of sat around and I thought about it for a long time going, God, how do I get this? How do I get dad forever?
Right.
And my birthday was approaching. And I had pulled out some birthday cards that I had saved. I save all of my parents' birthday cards. And I was reading through some of them and I thought, man, like these are good. There's there's some good stuff in here. There's some really sweet
Right.
reflections. He's pulling out memories of things I forgot about. He's
Right.
appreciating some of my qualities. He's given me some wisdom. Wow, this is really good. And so for my birthday, I handed him a stack of empty birthday cards. And I said, Dad, for my birthday, I want you to write me a whole bunch of birthday cards and I'm going to save them and I'm going to keep them and I'm going to open one a year after you're gone.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's a great way to because I don't think that you can like pre-grieve death because it's so hard. But I honestly love the way that your mind is working and trying to come up with a solution for after the big bad happens, when that time comes, because and each time, like I've experienced 3 significant losses in my life, my father, my daughter, and my granddaughter. And each one of those losses has been extremely different. I've learned things along the way, I've done things, but they were all extremely difficult, not gonna lie. And if I could go back, I would love to have had something like that to be able to communicate and feel that love from them in their own words, giving it to me on my special day, the day that they had me. That is so beautiful. I absolutely love that. Um, so yeah, so how many cards did he do for you? And how has this changed? Like, how has this blossomed into something else?
Yeah, so he's he's done a handful of. I gave him 75 because I said I would like to live to be 100 and something, and I hope
Right.
it's a while before you go. So here's too many. And we were talking on the phone the other day, and he started to give me some life lesson, and I said, Dad, I got to run, but go write that down in a card.
Right. Put that in
He
a
said,
card
oh,
for me because I need
okay,
it.
yeah, good idea. All right, cool. Okay, I'll go do that. So he's written a handful, but how it's evolved is after I gave him, I gave a stack to my mom as well. And I was kind of mulling around on this going, I cannot be the only person who wants a birthday card from their parent after they've passed. There's no way I'm the only person who wants this experience.
No.
And so I started telling first my roommates what I had done with my dad. And they all cried and they're like, that's amazing and
Yeah.
beautiful. And I wish I'd thought of that. And holy
Yeah.
moly. And then I started telling some friends about it. And the more I talked about it, the more I realized how it was really touching people. And my dad and I were in Hawaii in February, and he kind of like marched into my room at like 6:30 in the morning because he's been up for hours and is full of ideas. And he's like, hey, you know what? I was thinking about this card thing you want to have me do. You, we could call it birthdays from beyond.
Oh, I love it.
And I was like, yes, we could, Dad. That is a great name. And so that afternoon, I decided I need to make this, and I can't hoard this idea. I need to make this available for people. I got on Upwork. I started looking for assistance, because I knew if all of the work was up to me, I would never birth it. And I need someone who is strong where I am weak. And just decided, like, I have to make this. And so I've created these sets, basically, of empty birthday cards and a little sort of set of instructions.
Mhm.
But the piece that I have really enjoyed creating for this are the questions and the prompts that come
Okay.
in this set as a way of helping to cut the writer's block
Yeah.
and help people write a card that is actually both meaningful, but maybe is personal or vulnerable, or
Yeah.
shares some things that goes beyond the surface of happy birthday, hope you're having a great day.
Right. Yeah, because when like, I know for me, when I open up a blank card, I'm like, even just writing in a birthday card, I'm like, what do I even write? Like, happy birthday, hope it's amazing, which is the typical response. But you get those cards that are, maybe someone made the card, even like out of a scrap piece of paper that they had, and they wrote this amazing thing in it that they think is just something really quick and, whatever, but it was the most touching thing that you've ever read in a very long time. And so I love that, because the writer's block is very real, especially in cards. It's like, and especially something like this, I could imagine it puts a little another layer of stress upon it, because it's like, oh, they're going to read this after I'm gone.
Mhm.
What do I say? How, when is it going to show up to them? Like, so is there just birthdays from beyond, or is there like anniversaries for married people? Is there, like, I've got all kinds of questions, girl.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at the moment, V1 first
Yeah.
product is Birthdays from Beyond. But I imagine sort of extending into anniversaries and holidays and meaningful occasions outside of birthdays, because everybody has personal
Right.
things for them that they really want to celebrate. Um, and it doesn't only have to be parent child.
Yeah.
I was talking to my business coach, shout out Galel, and he said, his uncle was in hospice and he wished that he had had this to capture some of his uncle's stories and give this box of cards to his wife, right after he
Yeah.
was gone. So it can be any dyad, basically,
Yeah.
where someone's not going to be around and you want them to have some stories, wisdom, thoughts, love, appreciation.
Yeah. I love that, because it extends it out indefinitely until, you're gone and you have no more cards that you can read. And because yeah, I absolutely love that. I think it's brilliant. And I hope that people are burning down your door to get to it and all of these things, because until you face like a major loss, or until you start thinking about what you're going to do when that major loss happens. I was just writing a post today for Cassandra, for my daughter, and it is like staring at that blank screen and talking about it. It's like, okay, what do I write this year? What do I say now? And so to have that set of instructions to be able to help you and guide you upon creating this lasting memory that could literally change the trajectory of the person that is reading them.
Mhm.
Like healing that grief, healing that loss, healing that the emptiness that comes when it happens. All of those things. Just a little, because I had talked about is people think I'm crazy. And I'm like, I don't care, whatever. I'm going all in with this funeral stuff. I want to help people pre-plan their funeral ahead of time. I think it's a phenomenal thing and takes the stress and the pressure off of the person, off of the people that are having to plan it when you're gone. Like, there's a lot of stress. And so I talked about writing letters to each of my children, like when I pass, so that they get this, they only get it when I pass. They won't even know about it ahead of time. Maybe they will if they listen into this podcast, but like, and then having my own eulogy written so that it's customized for how I want it to say and what I want it to reflect and the moods and the emotions and all of those things. Like, I feel like there's a giant need for these things coming out. And I'm so thankful that you decided to come on this podcast and share it, because I had no idea that it even existed.
Me either, till several months ago. But I think, sort of speaking to this point of sitting down to write the letter to your daughter today, right? I think the beauty in having, let's say, something like a stack of birthday cards is maybe there becomes a little bit less pressure to say the thing in that one time. And so you have a little wiggle room. Maybe one year it's a funny card. Maybe one year it just recounts a memory that you have. One year it's an appreciation for one of the qualities or characteristics of your child. And so there is potentially a little bit less pressure to make it like
considerably less pressure.
Yeah. And so on one hand, sure, maybe it's a lot of cards, but also you can play around with it a little bit more. And it's not like what you're going to have written on your tombstone, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah. You can like spread it out, do a quip this month or this year, and then the next card is something else for the next year, obviously. I just find it brilliant. So where are you at in the process of all this? Are you currently selling this? Is it available right now? Can you talk about, has your dad written up a billion cards now, and has he given them to all of his friends that he plays tennis with, and this idea and doing all those things, since he's very well connected, it seems, and talking to everyone?
He has not written cards to his tennis mates yet. But he so we're actually just about to launch. I got all of my first prototypes in the mail here yesterday. So we have our first batch. The site is about to launch. We're very close. And I am sort of actually waffling between, do I just really bite the bullet and buy a whole bunch of these upfront and deal with the 2-month shipping delay and get them all here and just kind of take the jump and go, at some point I will be able to, share these with the people who are meant to have them, and, go ahead and invest in the 500 of these right now and just trust that. So that's kind of where I'm at, is a little tipping point of like, do I take this gamble on myself and this idea and this, birthday card experience, take the leap and trust that, something will happen on the other side of it.
If I had to say a guess, I would say yes, because I believe that it's knowing what I know now and going through the losses that I've experienced, I would say yes, that it is extremely needed and people would want it excessively. Just because when you experience a significant loss, you realize the fragility that we have in this world, and that we're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed the next breath. Like I could keel over right now and then it's done. There's no more. And so to bring life and love and almost like a healing reminder that, hey, I might not be here, but I'm still here. In those moments is something that a lot of people would want, especially a lot of people I've talked to, like on this grief journey that apparently I seem to be roller coasting, free falling.
And helping a lot of people with.
Oh, I'm hoping so. There are lots of people have been reaching out and stuff like that. This podcast has just blown up. I had an idea. I put a post out there and people started, okay, I'll be on it. I didn't realize how much having these conversations with people were helping these people themselves. And not to mention, when it expands out to the other people listening. So I think it's just invaluable And these services are invaluable to those coming in as well and wanting to have that experience, wanting to even commemorate grandma in a nursing home or grandpa in a nursing home and going and talking to them. Um, and maybe the grandma and grandpa don't write the cards or write in the cards, but they can still tell them the stories. And because I've thought about doing what I'm fondly calling the nursing home chronicles, and going and talking to the people in nursing homes that don't have family members or that have family members that are, not visiting very often, and just hearing their stories, because this is a legacy that's eventually going to be gone.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how great to give them the platform to
Yeah.
relive some of their memories and share some of their stories and to feel like someone really cares
Yeah.
about what makes them them.
Because it's the connection. It's the connection that we're going to miss. It's not necessarily, I mean, it is the physical of them being here, but it's the connection of them being gone. Like, you
Mhm.
can't just physically walk up and have a conversation anymore, face to face, and get that feedback back. But this card is almost like having that conversation. Like, they're telling you something, they're reminding you of something, they're reminiscing with you. And there was a movie that came out several years ago now. I'm not sure if you saw it, but it was this guy and this gal. I don't know if they'd gotten married. It's been a while since I watched it, but I don't know if they'd gotten married, but they were together, and he had gotten sick and he passed. And he convinced her mom to send her flowers and cards on every anniversary and birthday and all of those things. And she freaked out because she had no idea that this was going to happen, but he had pre-planned all of this because he knew that he was passing. So, and it was a beautiful story. I cried through. I'm like, and I don't normally cry through movies, but I'm like, that is beautiful.
Right, right. That's so sweet. And I'm sure the like great mystery of how these are appearing and to get to
Yeah.
experience some connection from her partner in a new way.
Yeah. Because he was helping her in the movie, he was helping her release the grief and to get back out into life. Because when grief happens, you shut down instantly. It's immediate shutdown, and you fall into what I call the nothingness. Nothing. You want to do nothing, you want to be nothing, you think nothing. It's just, you're there, a box of gray. And it takes a while to come out of that. And I could imagine receiving one of these cards, like, especially if it's around a major holiday or your birthday or something is happening, and reading those words that they lovingly put down on this card to bring you out of that, the funk that you're in, the nothingness. So kudos to you. I'm so excited for this. You will absolutely have to keep me in the loop with the launch. We'll post all of the links down below. What does your mom say about all this? Is she like all in with this? Is she have some reservations? Think it's kind of weird?
She's very supportive. She and my dad, but my mom especially, have really nurtured my entrepreneurial spirit from a
Mhm.
young age. And kind of anything that I want to do. A lot of her birthday cards actually center around um, appreciating the things that I've created in
Hmm.
my life. I I would say that I'm fairly unemployable. Um,
Oh, I know I am.
and so I've had to really carve out a way to create a wonderful life for myself very much on my terms. And she has always been so, so supportive and appreciative of the way that I have followed the things that I've been passionate about. And so she's a big champion in my corner for everything I create, including this. And
Now,
yeah,
are you the only child?
my dad has two daughters from a first marriage,
Okay.
and my mom was very, very close to them. When they were young kids as well. They're not her biological daughters, but I'm my
Mhm.
mom's only, and I grew up as the only child in their house,
Yeah.
except for all of my friends that they adopted. So,
Yeah. Those can be numerous. We
yeah.
have probably at least a couple dozen children ourselves,
Uh-huh.
and they still stop in all the time. All the
Mhm.
time. It's I think it's quite fascinating when you create a family dynamic that extends beyond your blood dynamic or your biological dynamic, um,
Mhm.
and creating this bonds to help heal the people that probably were lacking something in their life, or maybe they just wanted another one, to call home, to get away from wherever they're at. I know my kids have plenty of homes outside of ours as well, that
Mhm.
they go to, or they call, mom and dad, whatever. So I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it sort of makes me wonder who the adopted parents I will find when my parents pass away, and who will kind
Right.
of, right, take me into their
Yep.
familial non-blood, under their wing and into their home, and because that's absolutely something that I'll need. It's like this great sick cosmic joke that, the person who leaves is the person that you most wanna be next to and be with.
Yeah, yeah, I like that analogy, because I agree with that. It's like, okay, like, why not that person instead? Like they're just an asshat to me. No, I'm just kidding. I don't wish death upon anyone at all. But it's like, okay, why me? Why now? Why this person? And you start roller coasting into this whole abyss that you go into. But I am super excited for this. I think it's going to be amazing. And I want to support you however that I'm able to, and however that you need, because I truly believe that this belongs and needs to be in the world, to help the others. Like, I would absolutely buy some to give to my children, and my grandchildren, and, my husband and my mom. And here I'm assuming that I'm going to go before all of them. But I'll take that assumption.
Right, right, yeah. I will hope that for you,
Yes.
and yeah. Yeah, I mean, thank you for giving this platform to myself and for other people who have such wonderful suggestions for dealing with grief and coping with it and using it and exploring it. And um, even if somebody doesn't purchase birthdays from beyond, I hope that it sort of sparks this idea of, you know how can I maybe help stay a little more connected to
Yeah,
somebody while they're still here, right? What are some of the conversations or appreciations that would be nice to have in the moment while we can have them?
right. Yeah, no, just recording them down is amazing. Going to your local dollar store if you don't have the funds for it, and buying cards and writing them down, like, that is a thing. Uh,
Mhm.
but the thing that I love most about yours is the directions that come with it. Because we can go and we can hack anything and we can create whatever it is that we want, but having the directions and the clear cut, like the prompts to be able to write the things in there, that to me is the most valuable piece, of all of it. Just knowing what to write. So you're not staring at that blank screen or blank card, or like, oh God, what do I write this year that's different than the one I just wrote?
Right, right. I have on my website the 3 secrets to writing a card that will never be forgotten. So anybody can go and get that. Um, and I've thought about, how do you sit down and face the doom of the blank page and write a birthday card to a coworker, a sister, a friend, a parent, a grandchild, whatever. How do you write a card that is memorable and stands out? So that's free to everybody. And so that's available, birthdaysfrombeyond.com.
Well, I thank you so much for being on here. Is there anything else you want to say, you want to ask, you want to leave our listeners with?
I'm curious, actually, a question about you is, in all of the different iterations of grief that you have cycled through, um, what's something that you've learned?
I have learned to not take any second for granted. My kids, I let all of my family members know that I love them. They know it instantly. I have an open door policy. They're welcome at the house anytime they want to come. We've also blended with, so my daughter, the one that passed 7 years ago, she was actually my stepdaughter. But we have a blended family. And to me, it was like my daughter. I lost my daughter because we were that close. But we've connected with her mother and stepfather as well. And so like we have poker parties together. We if there's an event like today is the 7-year anniversary of her passing. We'll get together, we'll play cards, we'll have games, we'll barbecue, we'll do these things. Like just removing the stigma of like, say, oh, she's the ex-wife or the ex-in-laws or whatever. We just are like, okay, this is Cassandra's mom. I'm Cassandra's mom. It doesn't matter. And we get along. We make it work because there's more than just us involved. There's a whole bunch of children involved as well. And we want to set a great intention for them to know that they can come to me, they can go to her, and get support where they need it.
Yeah,
So.
that's really beautiful.
And a lot of people look at us like we're crazy, like, oh, you're going on vacation with the exes? It's like, yeah, we went to Vegas together with us, the four of us adults, or the parents, I shouldn't say adults, parents, because my children are all adults. I'm that old. and then the children, our kids came and we went to Vegas and we went to see like California, stick our toes in the ocean, and we went to see the Grand Canyon, we went to see the dam, like all the things. And then we just went camping and kids came, we went on the boat, like we just have fun. That's not this competition anymore.
Right. Your connection, it transcends any of the labels or any of the history. And you're able to be with what is, which is just a lot of love between all of you.
Yeah, it made me realize that life is extremely short. And at any moment in time, this connection can be gone. Our connection to right now can be gone. And I'm very aware of this and making sure that every moment, like I love connecting with people because I feel like we don't do enough connecting. In the social media age, you think that you connect all the time to people, you talk to people and you do all this, but in reality, the connection to the humans or people has gone down significantly because we're only on a screen. And then once we get in person, like we're this weird, awkward thing that has no idea how to act, what to say, how to be. And so they were like, I'm just gonna, hi. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And it's, I don't know, to me, I can talk about this all day long with we experience grief from the moment that we're born, up until the moment that we pass. These are conversations that we're going to need to have, these hard conversations that we just aren't having. And I think that there's a need for it. We need to be talking about this. We need to be setting these expectations, these realizations that, hey, I'm not going to live forever, and that's okay. That's 100% okay, because if I live forever, my skin would be leathery, I'd be wrinkled, I wouldn't be able to walk, I probably wouldn't be able to talk, all these things. But if we let them know that we love them at every moment of every day, like I'm not saying don't have boundaries, I'm not saying don't be I'm not saying be stuck to your phone and you can't do anything outside of your phone because you're worried that something's going to happen to them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have to live your life as well, but let them know that you love them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it strikes me as one great big mindfulness practice.
Yeah, every day I think all the things that are around me, all the blessed things that have been bestowed upon me, even though a lot of people are like, well, Faith, you've suffered a lot of grief and blah blah blah. I'm like, you know what, there's a silver lining to every grief I have suffered if I choose to look for it. I can look for the bad or I can look for the good. I choose to look for the good because if I look for the bad, that's all I will ever see. But if I look for the good, the beauty will surround me. And that's what I choose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that.
And my kids are like, Mom, it's a sucky day. I said, but is it? What have you learned? What are you thankful for? Give me 3 things that you're thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
And usually like,
Right.
well, I woke up. I'm like, well, that's a good one. Mm-hmm. Like, don't discount that.
Right. Like my dad says, where attention goes, energy flows.
Absolutely. And I think that, so dealing with grief and stuff, that is a continual practice, just like your mindset is. And the entrepreneurial word, wow, I can't even talk today. The entrepreneurial world, you come from this, you know this. Mindset is the biggest key differentiator in anything that you do online, anything that you do in a brick and mortar business, anything you do in anything. And with grief, it's the same thing. The mindset is one of the biggest key players, and it'll either take you into magical places or it will take you down a dark and dreary path. And it's your choice either way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad folks have this podcast to like take the red pill or the blue pill,
Right.
and really normalize conversations around it and discover different options and different strategies for, turning left or turning right or going upside down or inside out or.
Yeah. I mean, it's just grief is hard. It's so hard. People get so stuck with the whole, the loss and the emotional bereftness that comes with losing someone. And I get it. It's hard. That shit is the toughest thing ever. But at some point, you have to start coming out of that shell and realizing that there's more, that you can't just keep living for that one moment and living in the past and shutting yourself off for anything that will ever happen to you in the future. That's why I love your cards, because it pushes you beyond that. It pushes you beyond that bubble. It's like you're having a jury day. It's like, oh, my birthday's coming up and I'm going to miss them. And they're not going to be there to watch me blow out my candles or to sing for me on my birthday. But guess what? You get a card.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're there with you. And that to me is simply beautiful.
Now I have chills.
But it's so true. I mean, and a lot of times people don't think of these things until they're in that moment. And it's hard to see. So what you're in right now is the pre-planning phase. And I love that, because where I was at was I was actually in the phase. I was in it. I didn't have time to think. I didn't have time to do anything. I could only react at that moment. And so with this coming in to play and being available for people is a way to pre-plan, but it's also to more of a not a reaction, but what the hell am I thinking? It's like almost like a defensive move. It's like, okay, well, there's this here. I can go back and look at these cards then too every time I'm feeling down, every time I feel like I just want to hear their voice. I can read these cards and it's written in their voice, how they say things, how they word things, the things, all the things. So it's I don't know if you understand yet how excited I am for this, for you and for everyone else, because this is truly going to be magical for those that are willing to take part in it and willing to, whether they buy from you or whether they go to their store and buy them, whatever. But as long as they put this into motion for their family members, this will be extremely impactful for those willing to take that jump and pre-plan for it and actually have I want to say the courage to do it, because it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary to be writing what you think might be a letter to someone after you've passed.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the conversations that we have to have that we're not.
Right.
So any other questions?
Well, I already made you cry before we started recording.
Right?
Sorry that didn't make the podcast.
Oh, that's all right. It happens. It's happened more than once. I'm sure it'll happen again multiple times.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for this time and this platform and for reflecting back how this is landing for you.
Yeah.
And the impact that you feel like it will have on others and families and relationships. It's really sweet for me to hear this from, I don't know how you would feel about the term like grief expert, but you've certainly been through your fair share of it, right? And so someone speaking from a place of real experience and a lot of knowledge around it it's just really, it's touching for me to hear how it's landing for you. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, like the personal connection for me is one of the biggest things. Because if I could get a card from her, that would make my day. And I can't. And so to be able to put that out there for others, that is a gift. And to be pre-planning it and doing it now, magical. Nothing but love for it, honestly, 100%. So, okay, now that you've made me cry twice today, okay. Oh my God.
No more, I
Anything
promise.
else you want to say?
I feel pretty complete. What a delightful ending with your tears there.
Well, pretty perfect then. Thank you so much for being on here and sharing what you're doing and how you're impacting the grief world. I appreciate you and I appreciate the gift that you're unloading onto us. And I am looking forward to grabbing my own and taking part in that and referring you out to as many people as I can. And putting your name into the grief world, because that is exactly where it belongs, whether you want it to or not. I am putting you there. It's going to happen. And thank you so much for being on this podcast and sharing with all of these listeners.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Bye, guys. See you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this special episode of Release. All the links plus a few extras are posted in the show notes below. And if you think someone you know could benefit by listening to this episode, please share it with them. And as always, keep going, keep being, keep doing. You are amazing.